Chapter 6. It happened then that the priesthood of the Son of Elohim was full in Abel, but diminished in its fullness with each passing day upon Cain. And with this, Cain himself came to the conclusion that Yahavah looked with appreciation at the fruits offered by his brother, while rejecting the fruits delivered as an offering to Yahavah by his own hands. Cain therefore was incited by the devil and enticed of envy, while anger seized upon his senses. Wherefore Cain began to plan a way to cut off Abel's life. Abel in turn upheld the plan of salvation through the promised descendant, the chosen offspring, and through proper observance of the ordinance, correctly remembering the promise. It was then that Yahavah sought out Cain through an angel sent unto him from Elohim to ease the wrath that fed his heart. The messenger then told him that Elohim the Father had not rejected him when he showed favor to his brother's offering, but he was sad that there was envy and hatred in his heart. Then Yahavah asked him the reason for his wrath, and straightway made him understand that it was not the wrong form of worship that drew him away from his Creator, but the precepts of mortal man that result in a deceitful institution, and that this would be the only reason he would not hear his prayers. For the false form of worship only removed the priesthood power which Adam had laid upon his head as he had upon Abel. For Abel had truly understood the mystery of the sacrament through his blood atonement, which was a foreshadowing of the descending bridegroom, the likeness of whose painful ordeal requires the offering of one's own life by the hands of the priesthood. But the gift of life is that which only Elohim can rightfully give or take. Thus, his requirement of death upon an innocent creature will not cause them to properly reflect upon his offering for them according to the ancient covenant, and any who looked upon a helpless wounded creature writhing in agony would not remember the future offering of the chosen offspring to cleanse him or her of their sins, even Yeshua HaMashiach. For it was so ordained in the heavens that the power of divinity from the priesthood of the Son of Elohim among the sons of Adam can only be maintained among mankind in the flesh by a strict observance of their temporal ordinances. However, what made Cain remain apart from Elohim were the feelings contrary to the morning star, which allowed them to take root in his heart, and finally, the full power of the priesthood lost its effectiveness to the opposite feelings, which grieve the spirit of Elohim and pushes him from their hearts. Such sentiments led him to deliberate sin when Cain finally rejected the counsel of Elohim and set out to murder his brother. Thus, such feelings were contrary to those which were once instituted by Elohim to be the sentiments that govern the highest celestial characteristics in the sons of Adam, and by which righteous men in the flesh can control the priesthood of Elohim. These same feelings were established even before the foundation of the world to interact with the human sensibility, so that the children of mankind, even without the priesthood of Elohim, can identify in midst of their carnal nature those good feelings that proceed from Elohim to guide them in the way of justice and charity. But since Satan has interposed in the human heart an emotional parallel that leads the children of mankind to confuse the noble divine feelings with mere desires of their hearts, whereby mankind ends up exchanging the excellence of right motivation with regard to the pure sentiments derived from the fruits of Ruach HaKodesh, which is in the gospel of the only begotten of the Father, with that of a fleeting sense of greatness in his way of feeling and thinking, which ultimately corrupts his magnificence before the heavens, desecrating his true nature into a fallen and degraded condition that will lead mankind to an endless endeavor to satisfy his need for happiness by a deception designed by the enemy in their hearts. However, true happiness comes from within and proceeds from the light emanating from Ruach HaKodesh, and not from things that temporarily fill the void that causes the children of mankind to lack da'ath in their way of feeling.